Hi, Savvy Art followers. It's Karen Mayer, and I'm here interviewing Cleo Lant. Cleo is one of our awesome emerging artists, and we're so happy to connect with her again to see what she's up to. So let's get started. So Cleo and I just did a live portion on Instagram, and we'll be sharing that on Instagram. So this part is where we get to talk a little more in depth and take some time. So when we were on the live portion, we were talking about Cleo has just come back from the Netherlands and she's been so inspired by Van Gogh. She just showed her 2 new pieces she did. So please, Cleo, show us again and let's dig into that, okay? Because they're fantastic. Let's start with the yellow one. I love the yellow one.
Yeah, yellow's new for me. If people have seen my work in the past, yellow is not a color that has been featured before. So
you are right about that. The movement in that is lovely. And how big is that, Cleo?
This is 12 by 16, which is also a bit smaller than I usually work. But
you're right.
Like I said in the live, it was inspired by seeing Van Gogh's sunflowers in person. And also at the museum, they do such a wonderful job of guiding you through the context of his life and how his work progressed and different touch points there. And he went out and painted in plein air like many impressionists and it did in that time.
Right.
And so the paintings sometimes are quite small. So I thought I might give that a try as well.
Oh, that's great. And what did you name that one?
This one is called Black Caviar.
Really beautiful. Okay, show me the other one because the other one is really exciting too.
Sure. This one is also vertical, a little more dreamy and
very dreamy. What do we call this one?
This one is called It's Over, and then in brackets, Isn't It? Something else I've been trying to incorporate in my work lately is more negative space. I love the flowers, just want to keep painting flowers forever, but having that visual rest, I think it really adds to the piece.
You know, Cleo, that's an interesting evolution for you because the negative space is as important or sometimes more important than what's happening in the areas that have more going on. So, wow, I love that because you're taking a breath is so right. And then the contrast with, you know, your darker roses. I love that. That is, you know what also I think it does is it gives you depth, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. Depth. It's tough. I think most artists would agree that restraint is a little more difficult than it seems.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the evolution, right? I mean, new artists, you're just exploring, right? And you're giving it all you've got and you're putting it all in there. And as you mature, you're like, well, maybe I didn't need that. I mean, wasn't it Picasso that did so many pieces where he just did an evolution of the bull, for example, where he just kept taking things away from it. And then he came to a line, like a line drawing.
That's so true. And a really good example because Picasso was a master draftsman and a master painter. He could paint like any of the old masters, but he decided instead to create this whole new style that was a variation of reality. So I think as my work progresses, I'm finding more courage to do so.
Oh, I'm so excited about that. And I'm also excited about the floral. Florals are so accessible for people, right? And I just find in these challenging times that people need a rest for their eyes. They need joy, you know, they need comfort at home. What more appealing subject than a flower, you know?
I couldn't agree more. Like my kind of personal catchphrase for myself and my art is keep your heart blooming. So maybe it's not a challenging piece of work to the viewer. Maybe it doesn't cause them to think about, you know, something political or environmental or anything like that. But it doesn't always have to be that way with art. The message can just be that I like it, it gives me peace, or it makes me think of a happy memory.
Right, right. And you're young, like give me just a snippet of how it was through the pandemic for you.
Oh
in your
my
art?
goodness. I was fortunate. My kind of day job, if you will, is as a designer, graphic designer. So I was able to work from home during the pandemic, and I am definitely an introvert. So uh, I worried for the extroverts of the world who couldn't go and get their energy. But for the most part, I was fine. I could paint, I could do my work, but
Right.
nature is something really important to me. So I had to go out and walk every day. And that was how I got through it, going and looking at plants in the forest.
I think you are 1,000% right when you're saying introverts excelled through that whole time. I
Yeah.
think you're right about that. Absolutely. I know it. So, generally I have some questions, on standby, but I really love to explore what's happening with you and your art. So you have these beautiful red and, Payne's gray, navy pieces in the background. And I
Mhm.
really want to talk about how you moved, I think because of your inspiration of your recent travel, to these delights that are in front. Like I think this is really exciting. Are you excited about it? Is it something you're going to explore a little more detail?
Yeah, I do think so. I think what you mentioned about Picasso kind of exploring that theme, and that's something that a lot of artists do, where you catch on to something and you really want to go through it in detail. So for a while, the red and the blue was really kind of the um, my style and how I really saw my work as a whole. Um, I love it was a little bit of glare, but
Oh, that's okay. Oh, look at the bottom. Can you show me the bottom again? Left, yes, right there.
mhm.
Wow. See how those white flowers are kind of dripping in front of that negative space again? Did you do that one after the other two?
So this came, do you mean the other two, like these two?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you are right about that. How
Mm.
interesting. What makes you
Because
say that?
because you're exploring that negative space there already,
Hmm.
right? You did
Yeah,
a little bit on the ones behind you, but oh, I see that one. Okay. The
yeah,
negative
this
space
one.
was hiding before. So I got lucky. That's what we're saying.
No, I think you really nailed it with the timeline of
Yeah.
when they were created.
So how
It's
do you think that happened?
it's interesting that you point that out. That I think something I've discovered in my work lately is that you need to care a little less and be a little more free with it, because when I paint very closely, the flowers become, you know, very specific flowers. But when I just sort of let the brush strokes be themselves, that makes the most beautiful natural form, which I
Yeah.
think is very attractive.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited what you're going to come up with next because that's really cool. And that it gives a dreamy element to it for sure, but I also think people need that. They need to start dreaming again and
Mhm.
thinking, when I say spiritual, people get their tails in a knot and they're all like, religion, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
And that's super exciting. Creativity is inside you. It's kind of universal given, God given, whatever your spirit choice is. And so when you just let it come out, it's coming from somewhere else, Cleo. You know what I mean? Like you're channeling it.
It's everyone says, like, oh, I'm not creative. I couldn't even draw a stick person. That's the number one thing I hear from people who say they're not an artist, but everyone's creative. If you cook, if you problem solve, you're creative. You're an artist.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%. So just for everyone, because I've known you a while and I know your mom and, I'm such a fan, just tell everybody really quick background, just so they get to know you.
Sure, yeah. I have been making art as long as I've been able to hold a pencil, I think it's just
Mhm.
always been that natural thing to me. It's the thing that I love to do and how I can express myself. So I went to art school. I went to Sheridan here in Oakville, and then I did a post grad in technology. So for my day job, I'm a little more relevant, but art is really my passion. And I am so inspired, as we talked about before, by flowers and plants and all of the symbolism that they have, not
Mhm.
just the specific flowers themselves. Like I am interested in that with Victorian floral artistry and the language of flowers and
Okay.
how flowers are represented in different cultures and what's used for a funeral, what's used for a birthday party, what's used to say I love you.
Oh, this is
So some
interesting.
of that's coming into my work a little bit more, I think, where I'm interested in a little bit more of the intellectual side of art now, and I want to have some more hidden messages.
I would be so interested to hear more about what you're doing because that is
Sure.
fascinating. Which flowers they use for what. I am a huge flower fan. I love all flowers, but I do have my favorites. Yeah.
What are your other favorites?
The peony for sure. And I do love a hydrangea. They're,
You like the big kind of puffy flowers.
yeah, like make it
Nice.
large, you know. Just recently, I planted in my urn in the front door a double begonia.
Ooh,
I'm going to send you a picture
yeah,
because
please do.
they are unexpected. White begonias that are double. It's a strange plant. The flowers are like stacked on top of each other. And,
Mm-hmm.
and there's male and female flowers like
Oh,
in
I
the
didn't
same
know
plant.
that. It's you mentioned peonies as well. I love peonies, and they're so just they seem like a wedding cake or like a rococo flower.
Yeah.
But people don't know they can sometimes be used to represent anger in kind of
Oh,
Victorian flower symbolism. And I think it's because if you move a peony bush, just out of spite, out of the fury of being moved, it won't bloom for maybe 2 or 3 years.
yeah.
So there's all these kind of little the
Wow.
languages of flowers.
That's fascinating. We need to add some of that stuff to your profile.
I should. That's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that because I think that's fascinating. What else do you want people to know about your art that may not be evident?
I have maybe another little known fact about my work that I can show
Okay.
you because they're all sitting right
Yes.
here.
Okay.
I hate wasting paint.
Oh,
So anytime when I've decided, I'm finished painting for that moment, usually what I'll do is I'll take the extra paint and I put it on the back. And this is always where I put the painting name and my signature. So this is something all of my paintings have, and it's because I never want that paint to go in the garbage.
and you know why else that's good? Because I had read some information about a lot of artists sign the back of their paintings with a Sharpie.
Mhm.
And some people were saying the Sharpie can soak through.
Oh,
And I
that's
was
no
like,
good.
I didn't know that. So that would really prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, because the I use acrylic, so it'd be a bit of a plasticky barrier.
Oh, I love that. I'm so
Sure.
excited to see what's next. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Cleo. I really enjoyed this chat and we're going to do this again for sure.
My
But
pleasure.
yes, and I look forward to chatting again. You have a super afternoon.
Thanks, Karen. You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.